a minister, a man who fathered 4 children while behind bars, and the longest-serving female inmate in the California prison system. Here are the Manson family members who are still in prison. Members of the Manson family were involved in a total of 9 murders, including that of Hollywood actress Sharon Tate. While Manson himself died in prison in 2017, some of the imprisoned members of the cult, such as Lynette Squeaky Fromme and Stephen Clem Grogan, have already been released on parole. Susan Atkins, another of the convicted Manson followers, died in prison in 2009 of brain cancer. After the July 2023 release of Leslie Van Houten, 4 remain behind bars: Charles Tex Watson, Patricia Krenwinkel, Bruce M. Davis, and Bobby Beausoleil. Charles Tex Watson was considered to be cult leader Charles Manson's right-hand man, one of the few males in a cult made up primarily of women. Watson would act as Manson's muscle. As such, he was primarily involved in the most notorious of the Manson family's crimes, the horrific murder of Sharon Tate, who was 8 months pregnant, and 4 guests at the actress's home in Los Angeles. Days later, Watson was also involved in the La Bianca murders, along with Leslie Van Houten and others. In 1971, Watson was convicted of the murder of a total of 7 people and sentenced to death. However, his life was spared in 1972 when the California Supreme Court outlawed capital punishment in the state. Watson married in prison in 1979 and has fathered 4 children through conjugal visits, though such visits have since been forbidden to life prisoners. He divorced in 2003. He's been denied parole 18 times, most recently in 2021. Patricia Krenwinkel was a teenager when she fell under the thrall of cult leader Charles Manson in the late 1960s. As with the other young women who would become members of the Manson family, she would leave her old life behind to accompany Manson and his followers around the country, exploiting those they encountered for free food and lodging while indulging in sex and drug use. Krenwinkel's involvement in the murders was just as brutal as that of Tex Watson. During the Tate house attack, she relentlessly pursued and stabbed victims who attempted to escape. In the La Bianca murders, Krenwinkel gained notoriety for leaving a carving fork lodged into Lino LaBianca's abdomen. Initially, she received the death penalty, but it was later overturned, leading to a life imprisonment sentence. Krenwinkel remains behind bars as the longest-serving female inmate in the California prison system. According to the book The Family, Bruce M. Davis was one of Manson's most trusted members and gained a reputation for his use of LSD. In 1968, the cult leader reportedly sent Davis on a round-the-world trip, which included a stay in the UK where he was allegedly tasked with selling a collection of silver dollars the family had acquired. There, Davis approached the Church of Scientology and another religious group that was reportedly satanic. In addition to being convicted of robbery and conspiracy to commit murder, Davis was found guilty of the murder of Donald Shea, a stuntman whose life was tragically taken on the cult's ranch. During another gruesome incident, Davis was reportedly present when Manson sliced through music teacher Gary Hinman's ear with a sword. However, he allegedly left before Bobby Beausoleil, a family associate, carried out the fatal stabbing of Hinman. Though he's since become a born-again Christian and a minister, Davis has been rejected for parole a total of 8 times, with the latest parole board in 2022 saying that he lacks empathy. Robert Bobby Beausoleil was convicted of the murder of Gary Hinman in 1969, which is considered to be the first Manson family murder. According to what Hinman's family told People, Hinman was a musician and a lost artistic soul who left his home in Colorado for LA, where he met Manson and his entourage. In the book Helter Skelter, the killing is described as an effort to get money from Hinman. Beausoleil and a few others stopped by and chatted with Hinman for a bit before demanding money, pistol whipping Hinman to coerce him. Beausoleil then called Manson, who showed up and said nothing, but sliced Hinman's ear and then told him to sign over everything he had or he'd die before leaving. When further torture didn't produce any cash, Beausoleil called Manson. Beausoleil pointed out how Hinman's ear was mutilated and he thought he'd go to the police. At Manson's request, Beausoleil stabbed Hinman 3 to 4 times and called him a pig as he watched him die. Beausoleil has maintained that his interest in Manson was purely artistic.
My interest in Manson at the time was to try to get him in the studio because I thought he had talent.
Beausoleil was sentenced to death in 1970, but he also had his sentence changed to life in prison after the 1972 ban on capital punishment. He's been denied parole 18 times from 1982 to 2022, with parole being granted in January 2019, only to be reversed by Governor Gavin Newsom that April. Beausoleil, now 75, is listed by the CDCR as being in a California medical facility. 73-year-old Leslie Van Houten was released in California on July 11, 2023, marking the end of a 53-year incarceration. In 1969, Van Houten was sentenced to life in prison for her role in the Los Angeles murders of Leno and Rosemary LaBianca. Van Houten had been denied parole a total of 21 times. However, Van Houten is said to be a reformed character. Since committing murder at the age of 19, the former cult member has seemingly spent her decades in confinement, embracing rehabilitation, and has even earned a master's degree in counseling. According to her attorney, Nancy Tetreault, Van Houten spent 40 years in therapy and 30 years in what they called rehabilitative programming. She had to confront her feelings of crushing guilt over what she did. She's very remorseful.
I feel like if I am released, it will be because I deserved it. And if I'm not, then I'll be able to handle that also.